Welcome to Unlearn, the podcast that redefines the playbook for modern business leaders.
In a world where yesterday's truths are today's challenges, every episode brings you bold ideas and visionary strategies to thrive in a world where the only constant is change.
Let's dive in. Welcome to Unlearn. Hey everybody, welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Unlearn podcast. And it's fantastic because Kelly is here, so that's probably the reason why all these podcasts are great. But anyways, we've got an awesome podcast lined up today for you all, specifically because I was able to meet with Marcel. I don't know how we met, but we can probably talk about that too. But Marcel, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. So first, thanks, Asher and Kelly, to having me today. I'm Marcel. I'm VP Partnerships at Factorial. For those that don't know about Factorial, we're a global HR and business management software based in Barcelona. We do serve all around the world. We have more than 30,000 customers. We've raised more than 400 million from venture capital. And we are more than 1,000 of employees. Actually, we're hiring 300 people to be at 1.4 by the beginning of the second quarter of the year. And I will tell you more about what are we doing with partnerships and how I end up building a team of 100 people around.
Yeah, and I hope to do a catalyst in Barcelona at some point in time, which would be fantastic.
We'll be more than happy to host that.
Yeah. This is, by the way, how we get locations for catalysts. We bring people on a podcast and we ask them to host it.
That's a great excuse.
So cool. Well, Kelly, what's new in your world?
That's a tough one. I would rather hear what's top of mind for Marcel, though, because you sound like you guys are rapidly growing and you have a huge partner team, which at your stage, I think is pretty unusual.
One great deflection, I think. That was a very strong opening to the podcast. I can clearly tell how tired you are just by that. So, all right, we'll go back to Marcel. Marcel, tell us what's new in your life.
Sure. So we do have a big team because for us partners, it's a whole new business unit on the company, right? So just let me go back at the beginning of Factorial and then let's then cover partnerships if you don't mind. So we are more or less we have 8 years story in the company, so we are quite young. The first 3 years was mostly in product market fit for us in Spain. So we were working we started on the HR space. Now we expanded the product to other areas like finance, like IT, like other companies in the world are doing. And now the HR space is getting more and more horizontal those days. So we were on the HR space, working mostly on time and attendance, payroll, and this kind of stuff at those days. And we were, again, doing product market fit. At the beginning, the idea was that to make the software free and charge and monetize through benefits, more or less why Zenefits was doing in the time and on the States. And we pivot, luckily enough, after 3 years, and we start charging for the software, which probably was the right idea to do from the beginning. But to be honest, 8 years ago in Europe, the SaaS was not as popular as it is today. Okay, so also that's something to bear in mind. And from 5 years from now, we start to scale like crazy. So we did 3x on the first years of the business, then we were doing 2x, and we were at a point when we were already 800 people in the company. We started doing inbound, then we started to do the outbound, and at some point we said, okay, what else can we do to scale? Because, and it's very important, we serve to SMEs, so our customer normally is a company, let's say, from the first hundreds to the thousand of employees. So there are a million of companies like that in Europe, around 5 in the Americas. So the market is huge, but you need a lot of muscle if you want to cover that, right? And at some point we realized that if we wanted to do everything in-house with the sales team, we will need to be maybe a 10,000 people company, and that's extremely complex, right? So the answer was, why don't we try partnerships, right? And that was when we started to build that team more or less 2 years ago. I was the first, let's say, employee of that team. I was the chief of staff, by the way, of Jordi, of the CEO of the founders. So that was a side quest that I took. Let's explore partnerships.
Yeah.
Flash forward today, it's a team of 100 people, so we had a ton of learnings. But again, the main goal and why we built that was to be able to scale the business without the need of adding much more headcount to the company, because we learned that creates a ton of complexity.
And I'd love to hear how you started your team, because I think you see a lot of mid-market SaaS companies take that same journey, right? They get product market fit, they have a direct team going, and then they're looking to add in the partner function. They bring in one partner leader, and then, depending on the executive support, you see it be rocky at a lot of places. But I think another thing is like, who do you hire first? What are the profile for you hire? What are the roles, especially as you get larger? Partnerships is so broad, right? Today, there's like so many different avenues you can take. So would love to hear what you did first and who your initial hires were.
So that's a great question. I started probably the first 3 months by myself, figuring out what does it mean partnership for Factorial, because the company it can mean different things for us, right? So for us was, okay, I want to partner with start serving to the customers I want to serve, right? I want to partner to companies that we share the same ACP. That was the first, let's say, criteria. The second one, I want to partner to companies that are selling to these customers, that their business is to offer new products or new services, so they know, if we partner, they know what I will expect from them. And third, I will like to partner with companies that one way or another, Factorial will be relevant for them, even if it's for a part of the team, but they will have the focus, right? So with that, I built an easy Notion page with the biggest partners I could find, started in the whole market, which was Spain, and started to do outbound to them, right? And that means from hyperscalers to telcos to banks, and then to other tech companies. I was trying all the different flavors, because at the beginning, you don't have to. My advice: don't copy another company playbook. You need to find out what will work for your company. And we discovered different types of partnerships, and I will target that later. Once I discovered what worked, I started to hire the team, but not before. Even if you have the budget, I think one thing you should avoid is to start hiring people if you don't know what works for you. And we maintain a very thin organization after more or less 8 to 10 months, where we started to hire heavily, more team in more markets, right? But the first, let's say, 8 months were mostly some kind of product market fit for the partner team to see what kind of partner was for Factorial. And that part was very hard, was very intense. We tried many things. Some of them worked, some of them didn't work, until we found what worked for us.
Sounds like this chief of staff to VP of partnerships path is another career path we just uncovered. And I'm joking, because you just met with Jason Grafey, and that's the path he took also, interestingly. He was chief of staff to Satya.
Yeah, 100%. I met him in Redmond, and he said, he shared great stories about being chief staff with Satya. Look, I think it helps, of course, because you get an understanding of the business, right? And then if partnership really is a strategic for the company, you know how that might work. Yeah. And also you have direct line with the management of the company, which also helps to basically to plan, to get resources, to get the attention you need, because it's hard. I mean, we're building something when we already had a team of 500 people on the direct motion, right? So you need to make sure that you can balance the attention, you can balance the conflicts that they can have at the beginning, and that you set up your organization for success, which is not easy to do at the beginning of the motion.
Well, whose idea was it to even explore this?
So that was a bit of the part of the interview process, to be honest. When I was getting at on Factorial, Jordi just mentioned, hey, we were started to explore with partnerships, but we didn't make it work yet. What do you think about that? And I and I start to share some ideas with him. So to be honest, it was a mix of the management already thought about us with no clear focus. I got the proposal of starting this, and then it was just the inertia of start something new, because we really wanted to scale. So probably was a mix of ideas between Jordi and myself, and then it started to work.
It sounds like your initial hires were partner managers to focus on the partnerships. At what point did you hire partner ops, programs, enablement, people who kind of support the scaling of that function?
Yeah. So I think what we did is what it makes sense, which is, until you don't have any kind of problem with that, don't hire those. Meaning, we start to hire more team when we had traction, right? When you had partners to manage, when you have deals to get in, when you need to work with sales ops, with finance, and attribution. So at the very beginning, the main mandate for me and for my team, and what I told the team is, look, we need to build that. Don't bother the rest of the organization. We already have what we need. Just let's go and get the business, right? And once you get the business, you start hiring more people. And sometimes there is some friction, and you need to make sure that you're nice with the rest of the organization. You need to explain a lot what you do. You need to sit together with finance. So we were sitting together with finance, with sales ops, and we were basically every day, they were listening to our calls. We were inviting them I was inviting them to my staff meetings that I was doing with my partnership managers, or my monthly kickoff with my team. So everyone in the organization knew what we were doing. And coming back to your first question, I started to hire partnerships managers, but they were not partnerships managers before. So what I'm going to say is that maybe it's a bit unpopular, but I hired some kind of founders, entrepreneurs, like people, like small CEOs of a market, that they need to go to a market and figure out what partnership was Factorial, because what works for me in Spain is nothing to do what works for me in Germany or in the US or in Latam. We share some playbooks, but the natural of the partners is not the same, and that's very important. I mean, when you have to build something in Europe, every market is very different. Every partner has different incentives. The ecosystem is different. So I need to find some kind of entrepreneurs that land on those markets and start to find the truth on that, right? So that was a bit of a challenge. And look, I mean, we need to do many changes on the process to make sure that we have the right people as well.
Interesting. So you said you were looking specifically for people who had that entrepreneur background and were able to kind of have that sense of ownership.
Yeah, 100%. Either entrepreneur or generalist background. I'm a generalist myself. I started my career as a strategic consultant, and we sometimes laugh, right? That I feel like the strategic guy, that I was like doing the analysis, doing the PMO stuff, and then I'll end up on a role that is driving business to the company. But I think that combination is very powerful, because what we have here is a full P&L ownership. You need to get the partners, do marketing with them. We need to do the co-selling. We also have a team internally that closes the opportunity that comes from partners. We're doing also the operations, the customer experience, and we are owning the revenue, and we're owning also the P&L. So I need someone that can understand the business mechanics, that can have a full P&L budget, that can hire, that can fire the team. And that's not super common, right? If it comes from partnerships, great. But if it comes from operations, amazing as well. If it's a founder, maybe it works faster, right?
And did you work at some sort of a consulting firm before?
So I did not, but my team was full of consultants. So I started my career in an airline company called Vueling, which is the largest airline in Barcelona. It's part of the group of British Airways, Aer Lingus, and Iberia. And I was one of the first employees of the strategy and transformation team, which was full of McKinsey's and BGT consultants. So I was learning from consultants.
So you learned from the McKinsey people.
But lucky not, I was not a full consultant.
This is great, and Kelly's laughing because of what I'm about to say. But once again, we have a data point in the market where a leader of a partnerships business unit has had some sort of strategy and consulting background. Because, I mean, as you know, the chief partner officers in the world today that are these very highly paid individuals and executives are all, at least in our data in our research have all had some sort of strategy and consulting background, and then they got to that point, and then this was essentially a transformation project for the company.
I think it helps. Again, I mean, you need to understand different business mechanics, right? You need to understand marketing.
Yeah.
You need to understand how to sell. You need to understand operations. So you can learn by doing, but of course, you have that training, that you have that toolkit. I
Yeah.
have in my team. I have BCG and ex-BCG and ex-McKinsey directors doing great, right, in partnerships, and we catch up is like, we never thought we were going to tap on that kind of role, but they are having the time of their life, right? So yeah,
totally. So, well, Kelly, here's another data point.
Your theory continues to go strong.
Exactly. What's interesting is this is a data point in a mid-market company, not a large enterprise. So.
It's true. And so now that you've scaled out your team more and you had these more entrepreneurial leaders, are they within their teams now hiring people with more specific partner management experience, or are they continuing to look for the strategy and entrepreneur mindset instead?
So I think now we have a kind of a mix. That's true. When it gets because now what changed? Let's say the more mature markets, right? Let's take Spain, which is my biggest market, and I have the largest team. Even France or Germany or others. Now we know what partnerships mean for us in those markets. Now we know the kind of partners, and we have the process and we have the playbook, right? So let's say now it's easier to execute. Which give us to, okay, if I can hire someone that is already doing something similar in another company, maybe that would be a good fit. Still, sometimes I'm pushing back a lot my team saying, hey, he's doing that, but maybe if someone comes from a big corporation, we're still a startup. I do want to still have the startup culture. I want people that also, apart from their job, go on hand and go do other thing. So sometimes I push back to those kind of roles, but if they are really good, if they have the will to do it, because here we have more fun, we grow much more, and you have much more ownership, but we have much less processes than the Microsoft, the Amazon, or the SAP partnerships team, right? So there is a trade-off. And I want to make sure that everyone that comes here understands that trade-off, right? But coming back to your question, now we have a mix. We have people that even came from the sales direct team, that because they really wanted to move a bit in their career after some years of being account executive and then doing great in partnerships. We have people that came from hyperscaler, and we have still entrepreneurs that we're lucky to have, and they are doing great. So we have all the flavors today. Yeah.
And how diverse are your partner types? It sounded like when you initially took this on, you were looking quite broad at a lot of different types of organizations that could drive the business forward. Have you guys landed on a kind of narrower batch? It sounds like you're very organized by geo as well, but are you still pretty wide in the different partner types that you're working with?
So we have probably 3 different types of partners. The one side of them are let's say the more international ones, which are rare, but we have Microsoft as an example of one. I was discussing with Asher. I just came back from Seattle to be with part of the Microsoft management team together with the CEO. We were with Brad Smith, we were with Judd Sodugan, with the C-level of Microsoft, learning from them and also expanding the partnership, and it was an amazing experience. So this is a kind of partner that is helping us to be relevant with the partner ecosystem, which is huge. And for that, I have one small team fully dedicated to that, because this partner helps in Spain, in France, in the US. So that's let's say the top quartile of partners, international ones. Then I have a second layer, which are more business development partners, which are like, I will put you an example of Spain. We have an agreement with one of the largest banks in the world, which is Banco Santander. They are the second largest bank in Spain. We were lucky to convince them to go and promote Factorial within their SMB portfolio, right? So they have thousands of SMB companies in their portfolio, and they go and talk to their customers about their HR problems, how they are recruiting, how they're doing expense management. But that's not a partner that is doing the full cycle, right? They are mainly an acquisition channel, and then we do some co-selling with them. So that will be the strategic partnerships, the second layer. And the third layer, which is the bread and butter on what we do, are more resellers coming from the ERP, the cloud ecosystem, that, the partners that are able to implement HubSpot, Dynamics, SAP, they know how to implement, they know how to sell, they know how to do account management. And that's what gives you really the scale, right? Because my dream is to be, sleeping at home or being on the beach and having these machines that are not only selling, but they are taking care of the whole customer journey. That's very hard to have. I'm still looking for it, but this is mostly what it worked for us. But this kind of partners, it has to be a partner that also has a meaningful customer base, because we're selling to SME, right? If you're a partner that you really want to go high end, very few customers, you are monetizing a lot of services, it doesn't make sense for you to partner in a company that is serving to big market, that we want volume, that we are not going to, or software is really easy to use. So that's sometimes a challenge for the channel, because they want to monetize a lot of services. You're not going to do that with us, because basically it's almost a one-stop shop. You get the product and then it's very easy to use, right? So this is more or less what we have. We also have a smaller piece on the ecosystem that are more referral partners through integrations that is more a value add to the customer rather than an acquisition source. But these three will be basically your focus, and that's what the team is actively working with.
Talk to us a little bit about reporting inside the companies, because you have a large team compared to most partnerships teams, right?
Yeah.
And was your BU structure like separate from the beginning, or did you guys, let's say, bounce around in other teams and then you're like, hey, we're just going to create our own team because it's big enough now? Talk to us about the org design journey.
So we started like this from the very beginning. There was a small team in Spain inside the go-to-market directive that were doing some kind of referral partners with some small bookkeepers that was not scaling a lot, and I took over that team when our, let's say, our motion started to scale. But more or less, what we built it from the scratch. And from the beginning, for me, was very clear that we had a plan to execute. The first one was to let's get the partner, and second, let's activate them, right? The team grow on that second stage. So once we had, let's say, around 10 to 20 partners with potential that they start to work with us, that they were sharing opportunities, then we realized I need someone to support on the co-sell, and then I need someone to take care of the implementations and to train the partners. And then I needed someone to do marketing with them to make sure that they were being relevant for their customers and they were sharing different materials, right? And we started to grow. Why we are so big? To be honest, we are so big because we started in Europe, and if you work in Europe, you need to have one person from the market with the language of the market. If we were a US-based company, probably the team was been smaller, maybe half of the team I have. But I need one leader and a native team for Germany, another one for France, another one for Italy, another one from Portugal, so on and so on.
Yeah, and this is good context for our listeners. The thing that would be interesting to hear about would be like just metrics reporting, or like your scorecard, right? Like, and the reason why I asked that is because we did a survey at the end of last year, and 70% of the survey respondents said that their partner strategy and their corporate strategy are aligned, right? Which really means that executives are taking this seriously. And my hypothesis on the backside of that, look at that survey, was, well, this is high, but it's great to see this level of collaboration between executive teams and partner teams. But I want to make sure that the scorecards are updated so that the metrics that really are important to executive teams, that the partnerships teams are affecting, are rolling up to them automatically. So the plumbing needs to be done, right? And so talk to us a little bit about just scorecards or business level reporting, and how does it work? How did you get it done? because I think that'll help people who are listening to this to work on it internally at their companies.
Yeah. So I will not to you. This was very hard for us. And having the right reporter was hard because again we're doing everything. So we're doing inbound, we're doing outbound, we're doing partners, and we're working all in the same market, right?
Yep.
So when we started to grow, we faced the challenge that every company faces at some point, which is attribution. So we were getting some customers from one channel, then we were working from another, and at the very beginning it was very messy. But that's life. You can work on it, you return our rules, and at some point you start working together. What we made sure is that at the reporting level, what the main focus of this company is to grow, right? So what we were very clear, what we wanted to have very clear is how many new customers are we getting from every channel, and the number of MRR, which is the monthly recurring revenue, what are you contributing to the company, right? So you have to have your reporting in place.
Yeah, totally.
And what is key from my point of view is to have the sales ops team, which is normally the one that is managing the CRM of the company, and because the truth is in the CRM. Once you do the reporting is great, but you need to have the CRM in place. Is able to identify the deals that are coming from different channels and is able to report that, right? Once we have that in place, what we were reporting were two things to management. We were recording the revenue, yes, but there is the revenue is an indicator that takes time when you start a channel. So what I was sharing with management from the day one was the number of partners that were getting in, and the number of opportunities that I was creating through the channel, and you can see the growth because it's pretty easy if you're doing the right things to grow in pipeline, and at some point you will grow in revenue as well. But you need to give visibility on that, right? So at the very beginning, I was, very pushy on sending even weekly updates on how we were doing in terms of new partners, in terms of growth, in terms of agreements, and then the revenue came. But having your reporting in place from day one, it's challenging. It's hard because you are outside finding partners and creating business, but you need to make sure you have the house clean. And you need to make sure that everyone understands your metrics, that you are aligned, and that everyone in the organization understands what are you doing, what sales is doing, what marketing is doing, and how this contributes to the growth of the company. So I will say it's important that you are aligned with top management, but it's even more important that you are aligned with your peers on the other teams, and that you are all communicating with the same voice.
Yeah. How much did your CEOs or CFO help with this process?
So I think what really helped us is the culture we have, and let me explain. We have extremely strong culture of ownership, and I was the one person owning partnerships, right? So for me, having the reporting in place was as important as getting the revenue.
Yep, totally.
Because I need to explain what I was doing, and if something is complex, if something you cannot understand, sometimes it's leads that probably it's not really working, because when you have something, when you have numbers, you can explain them. If you have demos, you can explain you have demos. If you have pipeline, you can explain you have pipeline. If you have revenue, you can explain that you have revenue, right? You can do it better or worse, but the numbers are there. So I was owning that, right? Sales was owning sales, and the CFO was owning reporting. But we had a very strong culture on collaboration, and we understand that the company, needs to grow, and we were incentivized also at the management level on the whole company growth, right? So I had the same incentive of the sales leader, as the marketing leader, as the CFO. So that helps. But what really helps is the culture as a management team, and maybe that's for the audience, this is something that looks like more vanilla, but it's true. We are going every 3 months on an offsite, and we spend 3 to 4 days together. We're going next week. We know each other. We share our challenges. We share what worries us, and that creates a union between us and a trust that then it helps when we need to build something from the scratch, right? If you want to build a new partners team and you already have a motion in other areas and you are not talking to each other, it's impossible that you can scale, right? Yeah. So I think trust between executives probably it's what is more important at this stage when you need to build something new. Yeah. Because if not, it's very hard.
Well, also it helps if your compensation is all tied to each other, transparently.
Yeah, but that's a choice. Yeah, that's totally a choice, right? That's a company choice, but it makes sense.
Yeah,
Can you talk a little bit more about your relationship with the direct sales team? If I'm understanding you correctly, you have sellers on your team reporting to you that will sell through and close on the co-sell that were partner brought in deals. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%.
And how does that work with your direct sales team? So you can imagine a case where like a BDR or a direct seller's been like hitting up an account, they're not responding, but it's in their name. But then one of your partners brings it in and closes it. Like, how do you guys work on kind of organize those to prevent those type of situations happening? Or do you not?
I will tell. I will tell you what we have now. Again, the system can be better or worse. What really matters is the culture we have, and what really matters is that me, myself, and Nitya, who is our CRO and she's managing direct sales, we're extremely aligned, and it's fine. What we need to make sure is that our directors are extremely aligned, but even more important, that the team leads are extremely aligned. If you have your team leads aligned and they think about the growth of the company, then it's fine. Because they will have that pipeline review with the account executive or with my partner's account executives, and everyone will make sure that we're doing the right things, right? That for me is the best thing. And that's the hardest thing to do. That's culture, that's spending time together, and everyone needs to understand that the deals are Factorial deals. They are not partners deals, they are not inbound leads, they are not outbound deals. And that's very hard to build.
It is very hard. Well, and just are the direct sellers and your partner sellers paid on their own deals though, right? Or no?
Yeah, no, they are paid on their own one. So
having that not be an issue.
I know. But again, the first thing is culture, and it's as hard and as easy as it sounds, right? What do we have? We have golden rules. So basically, I mean, how we do it is, if you are working on an opportunity, on partners or on sales, and you are working on it, you are the one getting it on your quota, right? But we can help each other, right? Yeah. So in our case, if we have one account executive, one indirect closing a deal, and at some point we realize that a partner can help and can influence, and we track everything. What I'm going to say, we track everything we do. Okay, we involve the partner, we involve my team, but that's a direct sales close one. How I compensate my team is that if they get to their numbers, if they get to their partner pipeline numbers, and they help the team, all of those deals that are helping on direct sales, we pay them on top. But they need to hit their quota. Okay, and the same in the other way. Then my team, their focus is to generate new businesses, right? So if someone in direct sales is working on a deal and at some point they lose that opportunity, yeah, we can reactivate it and we can close it, and everyone is happy because that's your revenue for Factorial. But once you're engaging, we respect a lot that once you one A or one partner just start working with an opportunity, it belongs to them. They go, they close, and when we help each other, we compensate, but of course above of the target. And why we did that, and why we do that? Because we want to make sure that the inbound team is doing as much as they can with inbound pipeline, the outbound team is doing as much as they can with the outbound pipeline, and the partnerships teams and the partners are doing as much as they can with their pipeline and with the opportunities. We think that by stressing those channels, at the end of the day, we're going to do much more revenue. There are other options, but for us, it works pretty well.
Makes sense.
As we're talking of, like, I guess let's move to the later
but
stage.
Again, that's. I mean, I'm saying this very easy, but that I mean, we had a ton of discussions. I'm
sure,
and I'm sure we're still going to have much more. That's life. I mean, that happens in every company.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a email box called deal conflicts that is always full. So the interesting thing about your situation is, like, again, you have an org, you've got your own P&L. The thing that I'm curious about is and I'm starting to ask this to people who have full P&L responsibility, is what goes into the cost of goods sold? Yeah, somebody asked me that question, and I frankly didn't have a good answer. Yeah, but since we have you can tell us.
It's the same as in the direct motion. I can tell. I mean, what the cost of goods sold is mainly the infrastructure that we have as the company, right? What cost us to maintain the product, and then the support.
Okay.
So in our case, we compensate the partners that do the support, in more than a year time,
Okay.
right? If you are just giving me a deal and you are handing over to us, then I'm not paying in the second year. If you are delivering a support to the customer and you are the one managing the relationship, then I'm giving you also a revenue share, right? So that goes into that. But to be honest, what we mainly track, we track the P&L most on a quarterly level, because more or less we know the cost. What we are obsessed is about payback. So anything that goes beyond 12 months of payback, we really don't like it.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that the cost of selling is below this 12 months, right? And that's what we track very often in direct, and what we track a lot in the partners team. It's mostly what we spend in marketing, what we spend in salaries from the PDMs, and what we spend in revenue share with the partners.
Do integration costs, like all the integrations that you have, like sit in your cost of goods sold as well? Because that would, to me, would be considered partner product, basically.
We do, but it's not so relevant, to be honest. So yeah, we do it, but it's a very small amount.
Okay, so it's really the let's say margins that you pay to, or the fees, let's say you pay to your services partners, get put into the cost of goods sold, and then any IT infrastructure that's available to
so
support
the
them,
IT
like their
infrastructure,
portal.
that revenue share, and also we have a small team in each market that is the one we'd call the partner account management, PAM, which is the one that is training the partners, helping them the support. So we also include that small team on the cost of goods sold.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's call them partner success managers, right? Because like the traditional partner manager would be a sales and marketing headcount, essentially.
Yeah, we call it account management because at the end of the day, it's the one doing more the account management from those accounts, and then we call PDM to the partner development management. But yeah, I think every company calls them different. But that's the one that is incentivized on basically expanding the revenue we're getting by every customer and making sure that the partner deliver the service we want them to deliver.
Yeah, this may be interesting. We may actually end up doing a session with you specifically on like, hey, a modern P&L and what goes in each bucket, so people understand how to park the costs in the right buckets. Specifically, because I think the other ones are easy, right? Like my whole thing right now is like, hey, can a partnership leader, track performance all the way down to earnings per share or something similar, right? And that's not really relevant for like private companies, but even if you can come down to like net income generated from partnerships, that would actually be a pretty cool thing. So we actually come back to this one, but that's a solid answer. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, we do have we do have the tools and the software, so every director on my team is able to see at a monthly level the whole, how much are even the expense, the travel, the expenses, because it's a relevant piece as well. How much are we spending in events? Everything goes there, right? And they need to own it.
Totally. Yeah, that's great. I mean, transparently, the only other company that I've been able to figure out who's done it all the way down that far on their P&L is EY, and I was like, well, for sure they should have it because they audit every single other company.
Yeah. I'm sure they do it.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us now a little bit about like your challenges today, right? Like as you think about like where you are today, because obviously a partnership leader spends a lot of time on the 0 to 1 problem, and we've spent like 20 minutes discussing that, and then the 1 to like 5 problem, right? But tell us about like, okay, you've got 100 people, and it reminds me of like when I was at Avalara when we had like 97 people in our company in partnerships. It was a pretty large team. We ran into interesting issues back then, but like maybe the issues are similar or different now based on like just like this large unit that you've got here.
Yeah. Well, there are many, right? I mean, I think as matter of context. So now that this team is more or less contributing to 1/3 of the new revenue of the company, right?
Yeah.
So it became very relevant, very short, which is pretty nice. But we have the potential to scale more, right? I think the main challenge is the same challenge as the one I had from day one. That it takes time to get the return on the investment when you start partnerships, right? And every year we want to do more, and it means we need to add new partners, we need to train them, we need to onboard them, and we need to enable them. So how we're able to do that at scale, that's hard. I think today a big kind of opportunity I have is to share better do's and don'ts and learnings between teams.
Okay.
As I started this from the very beginning, in my head, I have a lot of context of what we did in different markets, right? But making sure that my directors and the team below are able to share that and not repeat the same mistakes. That for me is a key one, because it will help us to be, 2 or 3 times faster than if it doesn't happen. And then the implementation and the customer experience at scale, I think that's the next big challenge for us. We unlock the sales piece. Now we're growing fast. We are getting new customers every month. How we align the incentives of the partners on the account management piece together with the one they have in direct, that's challenging. Because when we started to work with them, my main focus is, hey, let's get the revenue, let's get the customers. Now I have partners that are very successful on selling, but I want to make sure that they expand the product. That on the second year, on the third year, they're able to upsell to more products. And that's challenging because we are building a lot of products. We're a startup. Every month we are launching new things, right? So how partners are able to be as enabled as a salesperson or as account management person on direct, that's very hard. And that's probably it's one of the biggest opportunities I have on this team.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good one. I feel like we could do a whole podcast on just second or third products that have been launched, and like how do you reskill or re-enable even your most reliant or close partners need that upskilling to just have a different conversation, and maybe it's with the same persona, or it could be with an adjacent persona or in an adjacent market on how to sell. Which leads to the next question, which would be, does your partner marketing team also, is it part of your unit, or is that part of the marketing unit? And then
It is.
Okay.
It's part of my organization.
Okay. So you're basically essentially running a whole company, a mini company inside of your company. It's just great.
Yeah. So when to be honest, when I started to build that team was inside marketing, because we thought, all of this might change. We are always changing,
totally.
right? We decided to have them in marketing at the beginning because we thought maybe they will share learnings together. They will have also a career within marketing. It was a small team, but as we were growing, once I started to hire directors for every market and the partner managers and the PDMs, and the main focus was to get new partners and activate them. I mean, they were sitting together, and at some point, the whole team was like reporting like functionally to the director of partners, and it made no sense because they were doing some things completely different than the inbound team. So the marketing we do is mainly account-based marketing with the partners, right? We do things like what we call campaign in the box. So every month in Factorial, we have something campaign. So this team takes the flow of that, they prepare it to the partners, they send it to them, and they enable the whole ecosystem of partners to do similar campaigns as the ones we do, right? They go, but we are extremely heavy on events. It's something that we don't do so much on the direct motion, but every month my team is traveling the first week with partners and doing events, doing breakfast. We do things that are pretty different, right? And when you're building something new, I think focus is key. So having them together, having them with owning the same targets, having them owning the same accountability, it really worked for us. So at this moment, the team is together. Maybe in the future we separate it again. We don't know, but for us it makes sense that every time we start something new, we put a lot of focus and we make sure that everyone is sitting next to each other.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have what I would call a directory that will eventually become a transactable marketplace, and that's the pure another thing that team can own.
Exactly. Yeah, we're building that. Another link to the challenge, right? What we would like is some kind of self-service motion with partners, right? That you can sign as a partner, you have all the training, you have all the materials, and you can start hopefully working with us. But that's again, it's I find that the secret here is to build a relationship with the partners.
Yeah.
Even if we go digital, even if we have Zoom, even if we have many tools, what the partners that work for us are the partners that we know, are the partners that we can get the phone and call them when something is happening. And for that, you need to build a relationship, and that has to be in person, right? So,
Which
that's
by
why
the
we
way
needed this team.
is true for your direct customers too. It's not just
Yeah,
a partnerships thing. It's like it's true for your direct customers too. If you need a reference, you don't have to call somebody to get the right reference that you need to win another deal, right?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, interesting.
Do you have any dedicated partner enablement on your team as well? So it sounds like the marketing is doing some enablement on the campaign side and providing campaigns, but more of what you were talking about before about staying up to date on the product, the program, anything in that bucket. Do you have dedicated resources, or does that ultimately fall to the PDMs today?
So at this moment, we're doing two things for enablement. Apart from on the side from the marketing side, so we have some. We call it actually partner enablement management. It's a person that basically help us to activate the partner on the first 2 weeks of the engagement. Most of the times we send that person at their partner offices to make sure that they are together, because for me there is a moment of truth when you start the relationship with the partner, that is the fastest they get to have real pipeline, the fastest that you will get business from them, right? And that's hard because when they start like fresh, they don't know actually how to pitch their product. They feel insecure, right? So having someone there that knows the product, that sometimes we had some great SDRs that we have in direct motion and we send to them. That works very well because in 2 weeks they are able to get, I don't know, 10, 20, 50 demos, and then the partner sees the value, and then they start selling, and you can hack 3 months of enablement in 2 weeks, right? So that role for us, we started to do it second half of last year as a trial, and that's key. So I have at least one of these persons in every market. And that helped us to generate demand very fast.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I know most companies see if they don't activate the partner in the beginning, it's an uphill battle to activate them later. So that's a really I think good advice to make that heavy investment up
similar
front.
to a salesperson, like when you bring a salesperson, if you don't give them opportunities to have at bats, that they just don't perform.
Yeah, 100%. And so that worked pretty well for us. And then of course, what we learned is that signing a partnership doesn't mean anything, right? Probably you know it already, but when I started and when the team started, it was like we're super celebrating. Hey, we signed this partner and this other, and we're going to make a lot of money. And then after 3 months, nothing happened, right? So we have a extremely trustworthy and transparent conversation with any partner we want to start working with. We want to understand if they're going to invest or not on this relationship, if they are able to sign on a business plan or not, and if they have the vision to be relevant for us, because we want to be relevant for them, right? Yeah. So I think that first conversations are extremely helpful. But sometimes when you get into the role, you have fear to challenge the new partner. You have some kind of fear to lose the signature if you are asking for a lot of things, but it will not work in the long term, right? So you need to make sure that you are building something that is going to be meaningful for both parties, and you need to understand what's meaningful for them, right? So I think that even goes before having this team, before having the enablement, before having everything. Having that conversation at the beginning with the partner for us is what makes it different.
Do you charge partners to be part of your program?
We do. Because we have a certification and we have a software they have all the content, all the enablement. So we do charge. Let's say I can say the long tail or the partners that are going to be on the first part of the program. If you are an expert partner or if you commit to deliver a business plan that is relevant for us, then you can get in for free, but that requires some investment. Like, for instance, having one person dedicated to their company, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the second learning we had.
Yeah.
If a partner has, let's say, 50 people on the commercial team, that's not relevant if none of them is incentivized to sell your product.
Yep.
So I want to make sure that at least one person on those partners is incentivized to sell our product. And if they don't sell our product, this person is not making their quota, is not making their variable, and of course, then something will happen, right? So if without that, it's very hard that you can convince them, that you can enablement, and that revenue can go. But it's something not easy to do. And for sure,
this is great. I mean, you have a pretty, I would say, mature program already. From what okay, as we close, because again, I say this all the time. We could talk about this stuff for hours, And I'm sure.
So there's
Kelly's waiting for our coffee.
Well.
You probably have to take a nap after all the traveling and stuff. But do you attend board meetings at Factorial? Are you invited?
Occasionally, yeah.
Are you invited to give a partner update to the board and stuff?
So we do updates when it's relevant for the area. So yeah, I did several times. I know the team and normally when we have board meetings.
What do you guys cover in that? Again, I'm just purely asking so that the other partner leaders who do go to board meetings or will get invited, they can also know what they should be talking about at that level.
So I think it's very similar on what is relevant for the company. We share the growth.
Okay.
We share the learnings, and also we share the bad news. I think it's very important that I own the plan for this year, right, of my team, and I know I need to deliver that number. And if I'm behind, I think for partners, but sales or whatever leader, you need to share when things are not working, right? So I think it's very important that you are transparent on the challenges, that you tell what's not working, that you tell hey, you try this, I commit to that, it's not happened. Here is the plan that I have to close the gap. But at the end of the day, I'm sharing the revenue we're getting from them. I'm sharing the efficiency metrics, so the payback, the cost, and I'm sharing also the vision. And I think that's something I share with the board, but also I share with my team every day, even with the new joiners. You need to share what you're building. When you're building partnerships, I think you have something pretty unique, that you can build something that can scale with no limits, with no roof.
Yeah, totally.
It's hard, but you have to share that vision, right? So we share many times that we're building something that needs to do 100x, and we share it with everyone.
Great. All right. I want to be respectful of your time and definitely respectful of Kelly's time, so I don't get these like weird Slack messages. But thanks so much Marcel. Thanks so much for spending time with us. So we'll definitely circle back and maybe do a session on just like the things that go in the right buckets inside of your P&L. I think that would be a fun one.
I would love that.
And we're going to do a Catalyst in London this year in the fall, so we'll definitely have you present there. But thanks again for spending time with us, and best of luck with your partner journey.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you today, and looking forward to have more time with you together, guys. Have a lovely day.
Thanks for listening. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player or YouTube. Share it with a colleague, or tell us what you thought of it on LinkedIn. See you next time.